you worked at Amazon. You were involved in Alexa for quite some time.
Hmm.
What how much of this did you see coming? How it feels like we went from the world of Alexa to the world of Chat GPT, and maybe just through the lens of like conversation design. It was what, November 22, right?
Hmm.
2022 that
Yeah.
Chat GPT was released. Here we are 14 months later. It feels like we live in a completely different world. Could you telegraph any of that at Amazon and working with Alexa? Was that kind of the vision that people were marching towards, or did this sort of like emerge seemingly out of nowhere?
No, so it's interesting because I remember we were working specifically on generative AI, and we really wanted, there was definitely talk about the potential to disrupt search, right? Um, the question at Alexa really has been all along, how much do people want to do by voice, right? And it was like, oh, imagine, that if what are the kinds of things that our customers want to do? They want information not just about the latest news headlines, but what about like their high school sports scores or local municipal elections or like all these kinds of information requests that they go to the web for.
Hmm.
We were saying, how much more of this can we supply by voice? Um, and yeah, I think like certainly informally we had been talking about like, oh wait, if this works though, this is a new model. Like this disrupts SEO.
Yeah.
This disrupts anyone who's doing advertising online, right?
Hmm.
So I think we did like there were at least like informally kind of a tacit understanding of like, oh wow, that big disruption is coming. I don't think anyone anticipated how quickly it would arrive and how quickly everyone would be talking about the potential disruption to our online ecosystem.
I was on some call earlier today with some other agency owners. Somebody kind of offhandedly said that, yeah, because of AI, like SEO is on its last legs, and that whole industry is going to have to reinvent itself like in a matter of months. And nobody on this call even blinked at that.
Right.
It's just, yep, yep. This
I
whole, I
agree.
mean, and that's just the start,
Hmm.
and that's just what I have access to in my professional network. Well, I mean, let's just go ahead and say that search engine optimization has been happening since the web
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
So, here
Exactly.
we are 31 years later. SEO has always been a thing.
Yeah.
And we all remember the hidden text at the bottom of GeoCities web pages where it was just like every synonym for every product you could ever think of, right? Early days of
Or the
SEO, keyword
Yahoo
stuffing.
like endless. You could click through the categories to get to the
Yeah,
website.
yeah, which categories you're in and like all that stuff. And SEO became, much more human and I guess sort of civilized and meaningful, but still we do seem to be creating a lot of content for search engines first and people second.
Hmm.
AI comes along, we start writing content for AI first and maybe not necessarily people. Do you think that optimizing content for AI is going to be as impactful as it was optimizing content for search engines, or is AI leapfrogging ahead of that in some way, and is AI expecting you to just be writing good content?
Right. I think there's like the utopian view and the dystopian view, right? And it's going to be controlled by like if there is a consolidation of search and chatbots under ChatGPT or Bing or something, right? There are people behind those systems who will get to make decisions of like, hey, we've got 16 relevant websites about this. How do we decide which one we attribute it to? Do we
Hmm.
attribute it to an order, right? Do people want to go deeper? Do we compensate people for their content, right?
Oh, it never occurred to me that the result becomes attribution.
I think so. I think so, right? That it's like where
Okay.
did you get this information? That's what will lend like some legitimacy and trust, right?
Yeah.
So a little bit I'm wondering if the existing ecosystem where you're like, hey, I trust something from the Mayo Clinic over something I read on an old GeoCities website about my health,
Right.
right? Um, like that's where I think Google has a big advantage. I mean, Bing to a certain extent too, that they've been building up these webs of, hey, which sites do people trust, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it does bring
Reputation.
it down to
Yep.
like the lowest common denominator, where you're like, more people trust this to be true, so therefore we're saying it's true, right?
Yeah.
And that feels like a dangerous game to get into without some expert oversight, right? And that's what I think is it will be interesting to watch. Is there's a lot more regulation over search industries, AI related or not, right?
Hmm.
And whether or not they are using those to their economic advantage. So the dystopian view is that whoever wins this will be like, hey, you want to be attributed for your awesome content? Pay
Yeah.
us more than the other guy.